How are you guys doing? Today we are going to be talking about nonverbal communication. Now, this may seem like a fairly simple topic, but I really want to focus on how much of communication is truly nonverbal and how, I guess, kind of important it is to communication in general. Um, just as a basic definition so that we're on the same page and we have the same understanding, nonverbal communication is essentially just communication without the use of words. It's what goes unspoken. So this could include a variety of things like touch, uh, gestures, facial expressions, body language, or even just something like eye contact. And it could be used to display a number of things. It could be emotion, if I have a frown on my face, it's safe to say I'm probably sad, but I don't have to tell you that because I'm frowning. You already know that. Or if I'm big old grin or smoldering, you can kind of get an idea of what emotion I'm coming across as. But it doesn't have to be emotion. It can also be um, a variety of thoughts. Um, that's kind of what I'll be focusing on. My personal example is uh, actually of an entire conversation that took place without words between me and my friend. And although I can't give you exact words of what was going through our heads, you get an idea of how we had a conversation without words. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. But first, I want to talk about some statistics. So, a lot of people have actually considered 93% of communication to be nonverbal, 7% being, of course, verbal communication. However, in an article that I read by David R. Novak uh, called Killing the Myth That 93% of Communication is Nonverbal, he splits that 93% up into 38% tone of voice and 55% nonverbal. So, to help you visualize that, I should have a pie chart appearing on screen right about there. Um, and so if you need help, just kind of visualize the percentages there. That should help you. But other than that, obviously, 55% is significantly less than 93 percent, but it is still more than half of what goes into communication um, is nonverbal. So it is still very, very important to a conversation or communication of any kind. So, going into the personal story that I said I had, um, take it back. Sorry, I want to backtrack. I actually want you guys to think, and you don't have to tell me because, let's be honest, I can't hear you. But I want you to think about a time when you were either in class or in public with a friend, and you heard something that made you raise an eyebrow, or it just caught your attention in general. And it was probably something funny because that works best in this scenario. But you heard something really funny, and so you're about to break. You're on the verge of laughing, and you know that the second you look over to your friend and you see him at that same point, just on the verge of utter chaos, you look over, you lock eyes, and you break. That right there is nonverbal communication. Of course, it doesn't really play into the statistic as well because there isn't 7% of verbal communication. There's not 38% tone of voice. It's 100% nonverbal communication. But like I said, that's really what I want to focus on in this calm talk because it is truly really important and it gets overlooked so often how much goes unspoken. So now that you've kind of got that picture in your head of, you know, looking at your friend and both breaking because you heard something funny, you're both thinking like, wow, that was hilarious. Tell me you're not. Of course you are. Um, Now that you've got that picture in your head, we are going to finally move on to my personal story. So this takes place at a grocery store because I work at a grocery store. Don't make fun of me, all right? And so I had just started my shift, I think, really. But my buddy Maddox, who works with me, he was just finishing his. So I was outside at the time, wrangling the carts, getting ready to bring him back into the store. When he walks out, and we chat briefly. He was definitely not distracting me from work. Nonverbal communication right there. Pick up on the wink. Um, Thank you. Um, and so we were talking a little bit, and we said bye or whatever, just as he was passing by. And he gets in his car, but like right after he gets in his car and his car starts and he's getting ready to leave, this very small human, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but he looked kind of funny, and in the moment it was especially very humorous. We see him walking by up into the store, and without a single thought, I look over to Maddox, and I see his face in his car driver's side mirror, and he's looking at me with a funny look on his face, and just to make sure we're both seeing the same thing without saying anything, I look back at the other guy and I look back at him, and he just you know he gives me a nod with a grin on his face, and so we both kind of giggle. Yes, I say giggle. Um, in our own two areas, because of course at that point he was in his car and I was still by the carts. But from a distance, we were able to have essentially a conversation, saying, "Did you see that? That's pretty funny. It's not something you see every day." Without actually having to say those words. And I just think that's pretty cool. So I guess just um, quickly to wrap up. Um, I'm sure you guys watch TV shows or movies. You can probably think of some examples maybe now that I've kind of put the thought into your mind. But have you guys seen the show The Office? Because I think this show does really well with some nonverbal communication. And I want to focus on the character Jim. Because I think there are so many instances of where he'll be in the moment, because he's probably one of the most normal characters in the show, and the other characters, they've all got their quirks. He'll be in the moment, sitting at his desk, and something kind of crazy happens in the office, and he goes from being in the moment to giving you a look in the camera, and then going back to being in the moment. And right then and there, he's directing your attention to the kind of chaos or whatever's going down in the office, in the paper company. Um, and so all that goes without being said. But you understand what he's kind of getting across as, look over here, do that. And, it's just cool because you don't have to say anything, but you still understand what's kind of being put out there for you to look at. So I hope I didn't take up too much of your time or drag this along too much. But I just really wanted to kind of explain to you how cool a conversation without words can be, because it's a simple concept, but it's cool that words can be said without being spoken. So thank you for listening, and that's all I got.